The regular school board meeting of District 518 on November 15th, 2022 will come to order. Let the minutes reflect that all school board members are present tonight. Under recognition of visitors and guests, thank you to everyone that's here in the room tonight and also those of you who are viewing via live stream. Under correspondence and recognition, we have no one that's asked to publicly appear before the school board tonight. And we do have several recognition items that I'll read for you. Congratulations to our Trojan boys cross country Minnesota State runners, Michaela Walu and Fano Woodday. Michaela finished in 12th place with a time of 16 minutes, 10 seconds, 44 hundredths of a second, and Fano finished 16th place with a time of 16 minutes, 18 seconds, 89 hundredths. Anyway, congratulations to Michaela Walu, Fanel Woolday, and Philmon Woolday for being named to the Big South Big Division All-Conference for Boys Cross Country. Becca Mork was named to the honorable mention team. Congratulations also to the boys varsity soccer team as this year's 2022 Big South Conference champions, along with Section 2 AA champions, and earning a berth to the state tournament. Marquis Sandoval was named to the boys state tournament team. Also, congratulations to our boys soccer team members named to the Big South Conference team. Jonathan Venegas, Santos Orellana, and Marquis Sandoval were named to the all-conference team, and teammates Alan Flores and Hugo Garcia were named as honorable mention. Jonathan Begingas was also first team all-state selection, and Santos Orellana was all-state honorable mention section. Also, congratulations to Brick Nordseth for being named to the Big South Conference West Division All Girls for girls tennis. Congratulations to all those student athletes from the school board. And I also know there was some volleyball announcements that came out as well today. I don't have those names, but congratulations to the volleyball girls also that made all conference. Okay, next then we will have.
I can give you some good names there, yeah.
On the volleyball team?
Yep, Taryn Sparks made first team all conference, and Ellie Wegg was honorable mention all conference.
Okay, thank you.
Volleyball.
Thank you for that, Brad. Okay, next up is a presentation of the 21-22 audit report by Ellen Hofker. Ellen, you're up.
Hello. Thank you for allowing our firm to prepare the audit for you again. We'll jump right into it. If you go to the 5th page in, that's what you're all looking for. There are just a few changes to it, this being one of them. The opinion is now at the top of the auditor's report, and you used to have to turn to about page 3 to find it, and it's now right on top. So our opinion in there, try that. The financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the school district. That is an unmodified or clean opinion. That's what you're looking for. There were no exceptions that were discovered during the audit that required any modified reporting. Any school district that spends over $750,000 in federal funds is required to prepare a single audit, and our opinion language covers that requirement also throughout this report. The next part, the front of the report, is the management discussion and analysis and the government or the full accrual presentation. We're not actually going to stop and look at that. We'll look at the fund balances in just a moment also. And then we're going to start, though, with getting into the actual statements. Before we do that, I do want to stop and point out the one other big change you'll see throughout here. It is in the government-wide, so it's not in the area we'll look at, but when I know you've all received it, looked at it before, but in the government-wide, you did implement GASB 87 on leases this year. What that does is that requires that instead of having just a lease out there and hidden back in the notes, you actually have a right of use asset now on again, the government-wide that will go out there for a long-term lease. You'll also have the corresponding debt. So it's actually kind of like when you did pensions a few years ago. It actually shows a right-of-use asset on the top, it shows the liability down below, and then it's amortized over the remaining life of the lease. And that was a new implementation. Again, pretty much only going to show on the governmental, and we're going to not spend a lot of time on that. We're going to go right into page 26. Page 26 is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance for the governmental funds. You'll see the first column is the general fund. Your revenues were just over $53,733,000, which is 1.03 above your budget. And expenses towards the bottom of the page in that first column were just over $57,107,000, which is 1.35% under your budget. The district had budgeted a decrease, and you'll see the detail on these numbers on pages 71 through 78. I'm just going to look at the total here. I know you've had a chance to look at it before, so. Back to column 1 on page 26 then, your net change in fund balance was a decrease, the third number from the bottom, of $3,184,000, and you had budgeted a decrease, I believe, of $5,807,000. Some of the reasons for those changes are obviously the continued COVID funds, your online education, those both help explain the increase in your revenues, and the decrease from the budget expenses. Some of that was due to staffing being unavailable, and a couple of capital outlay projects that you had budgeted for that didn't end up getting done in the fiscal year. And then some expenses that actually increased over what you had budgeted included the use of federal funds, and that would have been for the purchase of iPads and other related technology equipment. Overall, you had a decrease to that fund balance again of $3,184,000. Going on to food service in the second column, the revenues were just over $3,137,000 and expenses were just over $2,720,000. Bringing again the third number from the bottom in that column, your fund balance increased $417,000 to just over $1,221,000. The budgeted increase for that fund was $301,000. The main increase in revenue was related to federal assistance that you received and some supply chain funding that came through. Expenses, as typical as we've seen in our own bills, increased. On the other side of that page, the community service column, your revenues were just over $2,061,000, and expenses toward the bottom were just over $1,976,000. This left an increase, that third number from the bottom, of just over $84,000 to $1,081,000. Again, all of these are detailed in later pages throughout if you want to look at anything further. If you have questions that come up when you're looking at the detail, make sure to reach out to myself. We'll get you the answer at that time. In the community service, the main changes from your budgeted or expected amounts were minimal. There wasn't a whole lot that changed there. I guess you did have one ABE grant of just over $100,000 that was received, and that probably was over and above what you had budgeted. Going into the capital projects or building construction fund, you'll see your revenues were just over $24,000 and expenses were just over $17 million, decreasing the fund balance by just over $4,779,000. The expenses are related mainly to the intermediate building. And so your total decrease to your fund balance, your capital projects, was $17,003,967. In the debt service fund, the fifth column, or the sixth column, revenues were just over $3,581,000, and expenses were just over $4,755,000. The decrease reflects planned principal payments, which pay down from escrow, some debt excess, and some market value adjustments. So again, the decrease to your debt service fund was just over $1,173,000. Your total fund balance, the far right column, second number from the bottom, for the prior year was $75,025,868. At the end of fiscal year 22, your fund balance was $54,166,062 through that information that we just talked about across all the different funds. If you flip back to page 24, you'll see a little bit better breakdown of these final fund balances and where you're at there. So you'll see all the different, in the general fund, the non-spendable amount, all of your various restricted accounts, committed for the separation, the building construction, which decreased pretty much in half. And then you have assigned for projects, which also decreased $2,500,000. And you have unassigned this year, which is $18,458,000. That is up just over $1.6 million from the prior year. So again, it shows your total fund balance in the general, food service, community service, projects. I think in the past I've pointed out beyond all of the restrictions and the committed for and assigned for, if you take a look at just your unassigned balance, if you compare that into how many weeks of operation you have, in just the unassigned balance, you have 10 weeks of operation. And that was actually 18 weeks the year before. Overall, the district, sitting with a, relatively strong fund balance position. Any questions, I guess I should say? If, as you're going through it, you do come up with questions, just make sure to reach out.
Thank you, Ellen, for your time and the time of your staff and getting it all done. I know it's a lot of work. And for Pat Morphew, that helps with that as well, and his staff too. So thank you very much. So if you have any questions for Ellen at any time later, we can contact her individually and she will answer those questions, and we'll have some more time to get through it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then, next item then, under 1.3.4 is the presentation of the world's best workforce and achievement and the integration annual report. And it looks like Sarah Schumann's going to start, and then we'll have Maria Peters after that. So,
Awesome. Good evening. Coming around right now is a handout with all the data to report on the world's best workforce. The district improvement plan aligns with the 5 goals of that report based on the Minnesota state statutes. One more minute. So the first goal is relates to our pre-K program, and it's all children will be ready for kindergarten. Last year, you will see that there were 87 kids in our pre-K program, and 76% of them met proficiency on our kindergarten entry profile tool, which is a kind of assessment that we have locally developed here to use within our school systems. And you'll see that's an increase from the year prior, where 64% of students met that. Moving on to goal number 2, that looks at our Read Well by 3rd grade plan here in the district. And last year, 32.7% of our third graders met or exceeded on the reading MCA. And again, you'll note that's an increase from the year prior of 22.6%. Goal number 3 looks at the achievement gap. And our goal within the district in grades 3 through 10 was 60%. Unfortunately, we didn't meet that, but if you turn to the next page, you'll see it divided by subgroups. Starting with reading, overall, we had a 36% proficiency rate. And you'll note the light green boxes in the subgroups of Hispanic, Asian, and then the free and reduced meals. They had an increase over last year, and our limited English proficiency and special ed population had an increase to before pre-COVID levels. Moving on from math, we had a 27.2% overall proficiency in the district in grades 3 through 10. And again, you'll note that the subgroups of Hispanic, Black, Asian, and free and reduced price lunches all had an increase over last year. And again, the limited English proficiency and special ed have increased to before pre-COVID levels, which is great. You'll notice when we look at the state average, our trend lines follow those. We just have a lower starting point, but we did see a similar trend when we look at state data. The last 2 goals deal with college and career readiness. So in goal number 4, we're looking at attendance. And then, so you'll see at the high school, that was 81.8% last year. So 81% of students attended at least 90% of the time. And at the Learning Center, that percentage was 40%. And then we measure if they have a career goal in written form and complete a career assessment. And here at the high school, they do that in their careers class. And then at the Learning Center, they do that in their advisories and with counselors. And lastly, we look at the graduation rate. The most current data is for 2021. And so our 4-year average there, 74% of our students graduated within the 4-year cohort. And you'll see within the high school and Learning Center, those percentages. And then the 7-year, the state measures 4, 5, 6, and 7-year graduation rates. And so when you see the 7-year rate, that's actually the class of 2018. And at their 7-year mark, 78.7% of students have graduated or earned their diploma. And that's an increase from their 4-year mark of 75%. So we can see an increase in all of those to the 7-year data. So those are the 5 goals that we measure for World's Best Workforce and through the District School Improvement Plan. I'm going to turn it over to Maria to go through the NCIC integration report.
Okay, I'll just quick ask, does anybody have any questions for Sarah at this point on the report? Okay. Maria?
The purpose of Nobles County Integration Collaborative is to pursue racial and economic integration, increase student achievement, create equitable educational opportunities, reduce academic disparities based on students' diverse race, ethnic, and economic backgrounds. NCIC is founded through the Department of Education through Achievement and Integration Aid, and we also had 5 goals. Our first goal, by 2023, the percentage of students in the free or reduced price lunch subgroup of grade 8 will increase from the current proficiency level of 33% to 40% or greater as measured by the MCAs in math. The results were 20.5% of 8th graders in the subgroup met or exceeded the MCA, the math MCA accountability test. Goal number 2, by 2023, 70% of students, 70% of teachers, an increase from the baseline of 0%, will participate in professional development trainings that are designed to increase understanding of factors that contribute to achievement gaps and will increase implementation of strategies designed to close achievement gaps. 97% of teachers, or 296, participated in professional developmental training. Goal number 3, by 2023, on a district-administered survey, the percentage of students in grade 4, 5, 7, and 9 who report on improved school climate will increase from 70 to 75%. We were not able to report on that goal. Goal number 4, by 2023, the percentage of racially or ethnically diverse teachers will increase from 4 to 5%, and racially or ethnically regularly scheduled support staff will increase to 24% in order for all students to have a greater academic outcome and equitable education experience. Diversity in teachers increased to 5.2% from 4%, and in support staff, it increased to 32.2%, which was previously, the goal was at 24%. So both of those were met. Goal number 5, by 2023, 150 students from the free or reduced price lunch student subgroup, an increase from the baseline of 45 students, will participate in NCIC out-of-school time programs. 54 out of 75 students met the goal criteria that participated in NCIC out-of-school time programs. There's different criteria that students must meet to meet that goal. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for Maria on any of the goals or the percentages or the increases? So we're pretty much on track with all of them except the one, right? The first one, the not on track, goal met, yeah. So it was really the first one.
Yes, and then one we were not able to report.
A report on, okay. All right. Any questions?
So what are we doing to offer programs for these kids in reading and math? Because we're coming in forward, but we're still on the low end. So I know there's got to be something that we're doing after school or during school to help this increase over time.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we purchased a new curriculum 2 years ago, and we are seeing some really great gains at Prairie Elementary. We're not going to see that show up in the data for at least another year or two. But a lot of our kindergarten classes and first grade classes are seeing pre-COVID better levels than before pre-COVID. We also purchased an intervention program for the intermediate school to target phonics and phonemic awareness and really help build up those skills of our readers. You know, the science of reading says you need those skills in order to build fluency and to build comprehension. So we're going to be starting that in the next few weeks. And then we have our EDGE programming at Prairie Intermediate School and Middle School, as well as the after-school credit recovery through the High School and Learning Center.
Okay.
I think this is showing how inadequate standardized testing is as well. I think that I got to believe our numbers are higher than this, but the state requires that we base our results on the MCAs, and I don't think we quite get as accurate results as what we would like. So I tend to think our actual results would be just a tad bit higher if we were to use another type of way to measure.
Yeah, the state wants to see the MCA results, and that's kind of their accountability test. All of our teachers use multiple data points when they're making instructional decisions, whether that be in math or reading through their formative tests or the screeners that we do, and all the assessments that they have for the reading and math. It's not just a one test. So you're seeing one day of that kid where teachers are seeing lots of data points to make instructional decisions.
Other questions for Sarah? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Both of you for your time and efforts in getting that together and presenting tonight. Okay, the next item of business is 2.0, approval of the agenda. We have an addition to the main agenda, and that will be 5.24, And that's to approve the resolution authorizing insurance of certificates of election and directing the school district clerk to perform election duties. So add 5.24 to the main agenda. If you want me to read that again, I certainly can. Resolution authorizing issuance of certificates of election and directing school district clerk to perform other election-related duties. Okay, with that addition, I would approve a motion for both the consent and main agenda.
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Adam.
Second.
We have a second by Joel. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is approval of the minutes, the October 18th, 2022 school board meeting minutes, and the November 7th, 2022 school board work session meeting minutes, and also to accept the committee meeting minutes as included in your packet. Do I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Tom and a second by Steve. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. The next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the items under the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Adam,
Second.
second by Tom. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to the main agenda, the first item is the monthly financial overview, and Pat's going to help us with that discussion.
Well, in looking at this month's report for the ending October 31st, much of the funds appear to be as usual. No major blips in anything. Just a note, next month you will see the numbers with the revised budget and also with the audited last year's numbers. We're on track. We'll keep going.
Okay, any questions for Pat on the revenues or expenditures from October 31st, 2022? Okay, the next item then is 5.2, approve the first reading of policy 722, public data and data subject requests. Do I have a motion for approval of that first reading?
I would move to approve that first reading.
Okay, we have a motion by Brad.
Second.
We have a second by Tom. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is 5.3, and that's to canvass the election results. Do I have a motion for approval?
So move the approval.
Okay, I have a motion by Mike.
Second.
I'll take a second by Brad. Okay, any discussion on the election results?
Do we need to read those or anything, or is that necessary to read them?
We don't have to. I can if you'd like me to.
Go ahead.
So there were 4 candidates running for 3 positions. Votes for Aaron Schutte, 2,607. Adam Bloom, 2,470. Lori Dudley, 2,297. And Ladine Butch Fletcher, 1,327 votes. There were 52 write-in votes.
Any other discussion or questions on the election results?
It's a resolution, too, so.
Okay, so roll call vote?
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mr. Harberts.
Aye.
Mr. Prinz.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is 5.4, approve the 2021-2022 audit report. Okay, Ellen just gave that report.
I so move the approval of the audit report.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike.
Second.
We have a second by Joel. Any other questions for Pat, or I think Ellen left, so any other questions on the audit? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. The next item is to approve the World's Best Workforce Achievement and the Integration Annual Report for 2021-2022. And we heard those reports this morning, or tonight. Do I have a motion for approval?
I so move.
Okay, motion by Joel,
Second by Tom.
second by Tom. Any discussion or questions on those reports? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, the next item is 5.6. This is to approve the budget amendment. The Operations Committee looked at this. Do I have a motion for approval of this amendment?
So move, Steve.
Motion by Steve, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joel. Any discussion or questions for Pat on this one or John? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, the next item then is 5.7, and that's to approve that NHI final draft, and that's the Nobles Home Initiative. Do I have a motion for approval?
I so move.
Okay, we have a motion by Tom, second by Joel. Any discussion?
Last night, or at the city council meeting, I think the city tabled this or set it aside, waiting for clarification on the calculation or something to that effect. Is it in our best interest to wait to see what comes of that?
I read that same thing.
Just a thought, maybe we're putting the cart before the horse, because it takes all three of our entities to really make this thing work. County's already approved it. City hasn't, pending potential recommended changes. I don't know what they're going to do. Steve might be able.
I was in attendance at the meeting last night and heard the discussion. It primarily centered around the fact that the county and the proposal that's put together specifically by the county was to have a set amount based on the year when the facility or the home is completed. And in the past, it's been calculated every year, and that was the sticking point. The city council members felt that having it calculated every year would allow for more credit to go to the homeowner. If the value of the home should increase and the taxes would increase, they lost out on that change in value over that 5-year, every year. So they felt that they wanted to give it some more thought in what that meant. The way I understood it was if they could approve it in a different format, but the county would then have them calculate it out and then provide them with the amounts that would go on to the tax statements or credits or whatever that they would get. So it didn't sound like they were against it at all. In fact, they really are for it. They just think there should be a greater amount. Instead of having a set amount, it should be able to increase and get larger each year as you go on in each one of those 5-year process or periods. So I think we can go, if we're in agreement with having a set amount, which what the county approved, they would do the calculation of it, and then we would go forward, and that's how ours would be done, and the counties would be done. But the city would have to set their own process and calculate their own for that credit.
Just for everybody's understanding, this has been going on for about 10 years.
8 years, I believe.
How have we been doing it in the past?
So originally it was calculated year by year because they can't set an automatic program to do that, I guess. The auditor asked for a change to do the calculated, which they made an adjustment 3 years ago, something like that, without all the entities approving it. And so consequently, the county made that change without other entities. So it was trying to get this so it was a set plan. I don't necessarily have a problem other than if, I'll explain, Steve's right. If your valuation goes up, you potentially will receive a greater tax abatement credit. If your valuation goes down, you potentially will be paying more than what is there. So I don't disagree, but I'm okay with, and this was the conversation, I'm okay with one set amount. You just set it and you're done. And that was part of the conversation. I think it's I feel you can approve this, and if it needs to go back and change or be adjusted, just on the calculation portion, that portion would have to come back to you. But on ours, it would be based on one, just like the county.
Okay, Steve?
The way I understand it, the credit was to encourage people to do home construction, which is one thing. Also, part of this abatement was to help out contractors who at the time were doing speculative, or weren't doing speculative buildings to make housing available, because then they would be stuck paying the taxes when it was constructed or finished, and they had to move that house or pay the extra costs, and raise the price of the homes to cover that extra cost that they had to pay in property taxes. So the abatement was really to encourage contractors to build homes and have them available as spec homes, and then be able to afford to wait to sell them and not have to pay the extra property tax on them if they hadn't sold it right away. So that was part of the concept. I think the abatement, and I think that's also part of the reason why they're doing it on a year-to-year basis too, is because if the tax went up, they'd continue to get that credit and not have to pay the additional tax at that point. So it gave them a 5-year period for them to build a home and actually move it into the market with the homeowners. Obviously, what's been happening is, it appears to be working in our community or in our county. Other thing I look at is I think giving them a credit and fixing the amount is still a fair credit to give someone for building a house, an incentive for them to build. I don't think we necessarily need to continue to increase it from year to year. If somebody comes in with the program as it is and you say, you will get a credit for 5 years at this amount, which is pretty much equal to the first year that you have to start, you get credit for it. I think that's, you're probably looking at maybe somewhere in $10,000+ or plus or minus in that range, depending on the size of home you build and the valuation of the home. So I don't know if if adding more value to it is going to increase or decrease the interest of the people who are going to build a home and do it for that reason. I think the program works, and I think the people continue to build the home and take the credit. I don't think by calculating it every year or not calculating every year is going to be the deciding factor for that to happen. So I understand from the county's perspective, they've had difficulties in trying to track and calculate out it on a year-to-year basis. In the city council meeting, it was felt that this could be done with a simple spreadsheet. And I believe one of the councilmen said that the county said that if they want to do it that way, they certainly can, but they would have to do the calculation themselves. And if it's as straightforward, as simple as they were saying it is, the city probably would go ahead with that. But that would be a decision they'll make at their
So
next
at this point,
meeting.
the city's going to they've tabled it, and they could do it a little differently than what the county and what the school district will do if we approve this.
That's correct.
That's
Each
correct,
one of us can do it and set it. So I think for ease, it's probably easier to have them all the same. But if they're going to do it, then they would calculate out the cities and the counties, set an amount, and then the city would then have to calculate out what the credit is that they're getting from the city.
Okay, any other discussion? We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor to approve the Nobles Home Initiative final draft signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, the next item is 5.8, and that's to approve the resolution acknowledging participation in the Nobles Home Initiative Tax Abatement Program. Participating years are 2023 through 2027. Do I have a motion for approval of this resolution?
So move the participation.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Adam. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, a roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mr. Harberts.
Aye.
Mr. Prinz.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. The next item is 5.9. This is to approve student expulsion number 1. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Brad,
Second, Steve.
second by Steve. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mr. Harberts.
Aye.
Mr. Prinz.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. 5.10, approve student expulsion number 2. Do I have a motion?
So move the approval of expulsion.
A motion by
Number 2.
Mike,
Second, Steve.
second by Steve. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mr. Harberts.
Aye.
Mr. Prinz.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is 5.11, approve the resolution governing board supporting Form A, an application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation. And this is something we do every year?
Yeah, this would be like a grant to the district to support those kids who may not be able to pay participation fees. That's what it's utilized for.
Okay, have a motion for approval.
So move.
Okay, motion by Tom,
Second.
second by Brad. Any discussion? What's the amount based on? Just enrollment or how many free and reduced?
Yeah, I don't
or-
remember the exact dollar amount that they've requested, but it's usually about $3,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Does the Minnesota State High School League fund that, or
Correct. It's a grant from the high school league,
who we fund anyway?
which, yeah, exactly.
Money's coming back around.
Okay, this is also a roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mr. Harberts.
Aye.
Mr. Prinz.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is 5.12, approve the first reading of policy 908, naming rights. And operational committee looked at this?
Yeah, and so it'd be a policy for potential naming rights of activities field or something along that line. So it's a guide put together to help address when either small or large donations come in and how it would work in the process. So it's a guide for us to utilize in that decision-making.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval?
I so move.
Okay, motion by Joel,
Second.
second by Adam. Any discussion? So this is a new policy for us because typically we've not really named anything in the district.
No. And again, it follows the criteria you've kind of utilized, and whether it's outdoor fields or street areas or facilities that you might want to consider. So there's been more interest in that, so that's the reason for trying to get something put in writing.
Okay, any other discussion?
Is this something that we did ourselves, or did we get a template from MSBA? Or
MSBA does not have a template, so I was able to borrow it from another district in the Big South.
Okay, but we're not reinventing the wheel here.
We're not reinventing the wheel here.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is 5.13, approve the out-of-town band trip in 2023. And this is brought to the instructional by Mike Thompson. So I don't know more about where they're going or what they're doing. I don't know if he's told his students yet, but
He hasn't told the students,
Okay,
that's
okay,
why it's
okay,
not in here.
okay,
We want to
okay.
make sure he can surprise the students that participate in his band.
I thought that's maybe why Kate.
Send it to the students as soon as you guys approve.
I thought
So,
maybe you'd have the news for us since you're here.
I can share if you approve it.
Okay, let's approve it first. Do I have a motion for approval of the out-of-town band
So
trip?
move.
We
Second.
have a motion by Steve, and we have a second by Mike. Any discussion?
We ought to think about, no, I'm kidding.
Okay, all
They tells us first.
all right. Or can we go along? Can we just go along for free? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes, and
The marching band is traveling to San Diego, California to participate in the Holiday Bowl halftime performance.
All right.
awesome,
Congratulations.
awesome. San Diego Holiday Bowl this December, or a year from, so 2023. Okay. Awesome, thank you. Okay, the next item then is 5.14, approve iPads purchase, and that cost is $17,490. Do I
I'll
have a-
move the approval of the purchase.
Okay, a motion by Mike. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Adam. Any discussion?
The bulk of this is being paid by the ESSER funds, is that right? Or some other funding mechanism?
It's not ESSER, it's actually, it's called ECF funding.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
we're not getting 2,200 iPads for $17,490.
No,
so
it's actually almost $900,000, so.
That's it.
So it's a good deal, whatever the ECF funds are and where they're coming from.
Are iPads our best option moving forward here?
At this point, I believe it's still the best option.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is to approve the licensed substitute teacher pay increase to $200 a day, and that's across the district. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Tom,
Second.
second by Adam. Any discussion?
How does that affect this rate stay the same as for our teachers on call?
Well, so those dollars, so they get basically for their administrative fees 18%, so it will be an increase to them as well.
So this is just one way of trying to encourage people to do substitution work here. There's probably other ways we can entice them because, other districts will do the same thing. Other districts will want to pay more dollars to get the teachers as well. I think there's other ways that we can improve our processes in order to entice people to come and actually substitute here instead of one of the other districts in the area. So
Do all districts kind of struggle with this, though? Having a substitute shortage, because isn't it some of it credentials too? I mean, what you have to be a substitute?
Yeah, so you have to have a four-year degree. If you don't have a teaching degree, you can get a short call license with a four-year degree. So ultimately, if you have a teaching license, you potentially can get a long-term subbing license, and it can be at a tiered level as well. So again, I've shared this. The word was out after the instructional committee meeting when it hit the paper. Many of the area schools are aware of it, and they have some concerns. We'll draw a few our way. I don't anticipate a number of them coming our way, but it's also recognition for those who substitute on a daily basis for us, because there's some of them that substitute just about every day, so.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. The next item is 5.16, approve a half-time ECSE Spanish interpreter position.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Brad,
Second by Tom.
second by Tom. Any discussion on this one? But do we have someone that could apply for this, or I know we're short interpreters as well.
Yeah, we'll put out a job posting and take applications and try and get somebody hired.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is approve student expulsion number 3. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Tom. Second by Joel. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Lisa?
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mr. Harberts.
Aye.
Mr. Prinz.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is 5.18, approve the first reading of policy 729, credit card policy. John, you want to give an update on that one?
Yeah, so there's really not a lot of changes in the policy itself. It's really adding a couple people and making some adjustments in those that have a card to recognize the change in structure, and also adding adding the technology director as well, so they have a card. They haven't had one in the past, so.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval?
I so move.
Okay, motion by Joel. Do I have a second?
Second, Steve.
Second by Steve. Any discussion on the credit card policy number 729? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is 5.19, approve to request bids for middle school parking lot. John, you want an update there since
Yeah,
Dave's
that
not
was
here?
presented to the Operations Committee. This would be, we've had a engineering firm look at this. They put together specifications, ready to go out for bids. We're a little concerned that it's going to come in high, but we need to get bids before we can figure out whether we can afford to go forward or not. The middle school parking lot was figured out to be in 3 phases. This would be phase 1, which is the driveway on the, coming off of County Road 35 to the back of the building and around to the front of the building.
Okay, do I have a motion to go out for bids for the middle school parking lot?
So move, Steve.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Joel. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is 5.20, the discussion of the Cognia accreditation process.
So we're in year 5 of a potential going through the accreditation process through Cognia. Cognia is the new owner of what used to be Advanced Ed, which used to be, prior to that, North Central. So in conversations at the instructional committee, they felt the board should have a conversation related to if we want to continue doing this. We already do the work based on our continuous improvement plans and what we do with the centers of excellence. And at this point, we kind of feel like it's almost a repeat, but it's in their format. There's 30 standards that they want us to follow and review ourselves on. We don't currently do all 30 of those. The nice part is we have a lot of the information and we can work through and do the plan ourselves without actually having a cost for the accreditation. It's how important to the district and the board to have that accreditation. And Mr. Noble's here and he might want to add a thing or two, but I think I kind of summarized it pretty quick.
Answer any additional questions. The biggest thing that we found, the accreditation process has moved significantly into more of a self-assessment. And a lot of the work that they're asking us to summarize and share with them, it is work that we typically are doing for our improvement plans, and like John said, the Regional Center of Excellence work, a lot of the plans like the World's Best Workforce that we're already required to do at a state level. Those accountability systems are in place, and the accreditation process, it's not meant to be additional work, but very much at this point in time and how they're asking us to present the information is, it's not, though, we can't just submit it in its current form. We need to essentially rewrite, summarize, and submit to them in order for them to provide feedback to us.
Okay, and this is a national accreditation process. And it used to be the North Central, and then it's changed over the years, and this company then bought out that process, right? And then, is that kind of the history?
At least the ones that I participated in, they were far quicker to send teams out, meet with teachers, do surveys, review some of the work that we're doing. I think a lot of it has become more electronic, and again, there should be far more to a self-assessment as opposed to coming to be a part of our district for a week, actually having time to get to know what we're doing.
Steve?
Who within the district is going to do the extra work? Is there still work involved with it? Will this eliminate some extra work that we have to do, or if we have more work to do, who will perform that work?
Right now, Mr. Noble and his team is doing the work, and they actually have plenty of work. So adding this on is the extra stuff that happens periodically with some reporting requirements, so.
In terms of summaries, reflections on the standards, there's a fairly heavy lift of information that is due by February 1st, is the way the IDA would like to see it out there.
Hey, we got a couple here. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, what is the actual cost of this accreditation to the district?
You gotta help me, Mr. Noble.
The last bill that I saw was $4,500, but I believe that we're out of the way I can read the invoice, it appears to be like a $1,500 fee each year. And then you do get some access to additional resources now.
It's not a tremendous cost like it used to be when they sent teams out. When they sent teams out, it was a $10,000 to $15,000 cost. Now it's more like a $5,000 cost.
The travel and expenses and teams used to come is much higher.
Brad, you had a question?
And I'll echo what I said at the instructional meeting. What are we getting out of it? I mean, seriously, we're doing all the work anyway. We have the a lot of the checklists they would use. So if we want to, do this ourselves, which sounds like we're doing it, that way to begin with, I don't see even spending $5,000 when number one, the state doesn't require it. And second of all, we're doing the work anyway. I mean, really, realistically, as I said, we're spending about $5,000 for a banner or a plaque or whatever the heck we'll get in return, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It just doesn't. If we could do something to improve ourselves with their assistance, that's one thing. But I think we can improve ourselves without spending that money. So I'd be in favor of not doing this, be honest with you.
I do think the expectations of accountability have obviously increased significantly over the past decade that the state requires schools to do. I think this process, it definitely helped our systems to reflect and grow and try to continually improve. I think the state now requires so many more plans and accountability pieces we need to share at the state level. This definitely feels like additional work that is not necessary to help us grow. There are definitely good pieces. There's some parts of the assessment tool that we've already looked at and how could we use that with teams here, but we would not necessarily get to do that through this program.
Because we're already accountable to the MD and what they require us to do, so this is just another national certification of some point. Okay.
Madam Chair, I don't believe any action is really necessary if we aren't going to approve it to move forward. So I'd say we just leave it and move forward with our agenda.
Unless somebody wants to put forth a motion.
So if I'm hearing
Bring one
Steve
second.
correctly, I want to be clear. So
Right.
you're saying that if there's no motion to continue on, we're just going to end doing the
Because we
accreditation?
never approved to do it to start with, right? I mean, did we at some point approve?
One other question, does it have any effect on, say you apply for certain grants, or does this thing give a feather in your cap for having an accreditation process?
It's one of those things you can tout you're accredited by Cognia, so it's a national accreditation.
So, I mean, it doesn't help
Not
any
necessarily.
other dollars that could come in.
There's no
Mike?
fallback to the student where they're applying to some prestigious college or something that they come from an accredited program?
No.
I'm just,
You're right.
I believe, from what we were told, this is required of private schools.
Private schools are required to go through the accreditation process, so that's one thing that as I started to join some of the online meetings with this organization, there were not a lot of public schools. Because I was hoping to kind of reach out to some within our region, some within the state, and just kind of walk alongside them. And pretty much everyone that was on the training when I was on the training for private schools.
So basically, MDE is our accreditation company, for the most part.
Any other discussion? Because again, I agree with Steve, I don't think we have to do anything with this. because we have discussed it, and at no point do I remember approving us to go forward with the accreditation process through Cognia, so then it's a moot point now. Is that correct, John? Or would you rather have a motion?
I'd rather have a motion
Okay.
telling us.
I move we do not participate in the accreditation.
Okay, we have a motion by Steve, and we have a second by Brad to not be a part of the Cognia accreditation process. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. The next item is to approve student expulsion number 4. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Adam,
Second.
second by Tom. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley?
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Harberts?
Aye.
Mr. Prinz?
Aye.
Mr. Bloom?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer?
Aye.
Motion passes. 5.22, approve student expulsion number 5. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Steve.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Mike. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley?
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Harberts?
Aye.
Mr. Prinz?
Aye.
Mr. Bloom?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer?
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is 5.23, approve student expulsion number 6. Do I
So
have a
moved,
motion?
Steve.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Tom. Any discussion?
I have one thing to say.
Okay.
We just expelled six students, and as concerning as that is, I hope it sends a message that we're not going to tolerate these kind of activities any further. You know, I think this is a pretty strong thing to be expelled, and I want people, and kids especially, to take note that these activities will not be tolerated, and you'll end up on this list if you continue down this path. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's concerning, yet we need to do these kind of things. So,
Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley?
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Harberts?
Aye.
Mr. Prinz?
Aye.
Mr. Bloom?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer?
aye.
Motion passes. The next item is 5.24, approve the resolution authorizing issuance of certificates of election and directing the school district clerk to perform other election duties. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved, whatever that was.
A motion by Brad,
Second.
second by Tom. Any discussion? This just allows Lisa to do the duties of the election clerk thing, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's a roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley?
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Harberts?
Aye.
Mr. Prinz?
Aye.
Mr. Bloom?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, the next item is our superintendent's report.
So I have two things tonight. First one is the MSBA Leadership Conference in January. I need to know if you're going, because I actually have rooms for everybody, but if you're not going, I need to get those canceled or adjusted and changes. So,
Going.
going
I'll go.
I don't know yet. When you have to know?
sooner than later, because I don't want to get hooked for rooms. It's January 12th and 13th.
13th, I'll let you know in a day or two.
All right,
Not looking good for me, but I will let you know before Joel does.
Adam?
I think so.
Yes?
I'll let you know.
Cool, all right. The second thing I need is, right now, for the review of the student information system, the finance system, and the employee system, I need to get board members identified for that. I do have Tom on the student information system, Steve on the finance, but I need a board member for the employee side, and then one of those three will, or the chair will be on the core committee. And more than likely, the chair will be on the core committee, so.
Do we know when, how often this committee's meeting, or when, or any of those things?
Not at this point, I'm just trying to get this organized.
Okay. I could be on the employee one,
Okay,
and we can in January, figure out who's going to be on for the board chair to be on.
For the core committee?
The core committee, for board
Okay.
chair. Would make sense, probably.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, nothing else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Instructional committee report. Tom, I think you led the instructional committee.
Everything was covered in the meeting.
Okay. How about operations report?
Everything was covered there, too.
Everything's covered. Okay. Any other reports?
I have a question.
Yes.
Did our traffic study get done? Actually, did it get done? It was scheduled for last month. Did our traffic study get done on Crailsheim?
As far as I know, they did this traffic study. I have not heard or seen anything of a report yet.
What about that email we got for Thursday?
I think for Thursday, we can talk about that after the meeting quick.
Okay.
Board members have been asked to visit schools on Thursday, and I think we can visit just quick afterwards so we can each get to at least one, the 4 buildings, 5 buildings, and we can talk a little bit after that quick. Okay, any other future business? Okay, adjourn the meeting.